How are you reflecting, the business value back up to leadership or the organization right now? Do you have anything practical you can share with that? Is there a meeting or something that you do to share all that with and say, hey, this is where we're going, this is what we got?
Yeah, so initially we had identified all the executive stakeholders, the different people globally that represented, different areas of AES, not just within ServiceNow, but just within AES on the whole. And we had to go through the entire process of putting together. It was probably like a 30-slide presentation that I had to build, of why replatforming is what we wanted to do, with the vision of why we wanted to do that. And then going forward, right, we have a monthly executive steering committee call. And I'm meeting with those same steering committee folks every month to let them know from a replatforming perspective, where we're at, the status of the replatforming, where we've had any challenges and how we've addressed those challenges, and where we've had wins, even where we've had losses, things that have been tough that maybe we've that's caused a change order, it's caused something that's slipped a little bit. But we always stay in lockstep with the executives and the steering committee in those monthly calls. I also keep a Microsoft loop that kind of keeps everything in place so they can get an idea in real time of where we're at when it comes to all of those things. And then using, dashboards and reports within ServiceNow as well to show where we're at from a replatforming perspective. On top of that, right, we've had some initial, and it's just because replatforming has been so busy, we haven't had a chance yet, but we've had some initial conversations, I think, really planting the seed of, okay, the next step before we go live with our replatforming is working with each of the executive steering committee folks and whoever they deem folks that represent those areas as well, to start building our roadmap, right? Some of the things I mentioned before, OT, clean energy, the things that we have here for us, how do we start putting those into the roadmap in 2025? Some of the stuff around application portfolio management, just the different things that I know I've heard and we've had kind of conversations with when I've spoken with folks, that we want to do within ServiceNow, that we want to do within AES, putting those into a roadmap so we understand, where do we have capacity? Where do we start forecasting budget to allow us to do those things? And again, really putting that roadmap together. And we're actually working with you all, on two things, right? Putting together a proper governance model, and really having that in a digestible, easy to find location, within the knowledge base, within some of the areas that we have within IRM as well for process, documentation, but having a centralized location for the processes for everything else within ServiceNow. And again, working with you all, I think, and the rest of AES to figure out what does that roadmap look like? What is our appetite for the things that we want to do within ServiceNow? And then lastly, right, how do we put that ideation and that demand inside of ServiceNow? That's another challenge that we have that we want to address in the very near future is when we have teams, HR I talked about earlier, they've spoken with us and said, I've got email that comes in, I've got Teams messages, I've got all these things where people say, hey, HR, we want you to do this neat thing, within the landscape of AES. And they have to track all of that within multiple tools. We want to be able to use ServiceNow to have that demand management, have that ideation of everything coming into one place and make determinations on, does it make sense for us to proceed forward? Do we have the resources, the bandwidth, the finance to be able to do those things? And so using ServiceNow to do that going forward is really going to be key and instrumental, I think, in helping us manage all of that.